Hello everyone, welcome to SAP Technomaniac. Till now, we have created one basic OData project and we tried to read the data using a service from the SAP system, one of the table G employee underscore RAM. In this video, we will do another CRUD operations, like we will try to create the entry in that particular table, we will try to update the data and we will try to delete the data from that particular table. Let's get started. Before going to create, update and delete operation, we will just quickly revise our read operations which we have discussed in my last video. So to access the any data from the OData service, what you have to do, you need to know first that what is your service name. This is the service we have created. You should know what is the metadata. To access the metadata, you have to write $metadata. After the service name, it will return us the metadata. Once you see the metadata, you should know what is the entity type, entity set which you want to access, that you will see in your entity container. Once you get to know what is the entity set, you have to copy that one and just the service name / and that entity set you have to write and you have to enter. As soon as you write this particular employee set entity set name, this will call this particular method get entity set method, and it will we have re-implemented this get entity set method in the extension class in my last video. Otherwise, if we don't implement this get entity set method, this will be called this particular method from this data provider class instead of calling from the data provider class extension, and we will get this particular get entity set method is not implemented. But in this case, since we have implemented the get entity set method, I think so we should get the data. It's loading. Let me close employee set. Let me try to access again. So you can see, we can see the data. All the data, what all are the data is available in this particular table, G underscore employee underscore RAM table. We were able to see all the data using this get entity set method. So we have used this URI, and this URI will call get entity set method, and we will able to see this all the data. If you want to see the data in the JSON format, you have to write one query options. To write the query option, you have to remember, you have to write question mark dollar format equal to JSON. So you can see that the same data in the JSON format, and it is very clearly visible. Employee ID 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, like that we can see. I want to access that particular employee instead of accessing the entire data from this employee table. For that, we have implemented another method, get entity method. Redefine that get entity method in the extension class. Before redefinition, we were getting the error. This particular get entity method was not implemented. So as soon as we have implemented the get entity method, and we were able to get the data using this method, and we can get the data from that particular entity. In this case, we are using only one table. There might be possibility your entity type is defined using the multiple tables. You might have to club those all the data and finally put in this particular ER underscore entity or ER underscore entity set. It depends upon the requirement. So we were able to access, if you want to access the particular one data only, I just want to access the employee set 1, means employee ID 1, then I got only the 1. Suppose, let me pass this thing. I pass something called 7, which is not available currently in my table. So let's see what error is getting. So it is telling resource not found for the segment employee. Like that, this kind of error we are getting. But I want to display some customized message. If I will not get this particular employee, I want to display that particular employee is not available. So for that, what we have to do, we have to do little bit more implementation. If if we are not getting that particular employee, obviously this will come here, 7 will be passed here, we will be not getting data, and the ER entity will be empty, and this is standard message we are getting, business resource not found for the segment employee. But what I want to display, this particular employee ID is not available in the system. That kind of message I want to display instead of this standard message. So for displaying your message, what you can do, if size abas is not initial, you can put like that, and you can raise the exception. If you do F2 in your get entity or get entity set, you can see you can raise two type of exception. One is the business exception and second is the tech exception. In this case, this is the business exception. You can copy this exception, or you can write the code like that. Raise same way they have written here. What you have to write, raise exception, raise, oh, control Z, raise exception type, and you have to give the exception class name, and if you do control space and shift enter, it will give you enter this particular exception. In this case, I have to pass the text ID. Again, if you see this particular class, business exception class, you can see different text IDs. If you are aware about how to raise the exception using this class exception classes, then you might have aware about this particular constant values. This you can use to raise the exceptions. In this case, I will use this again same business exception. So what I will do, I will pass the text ID and I will get the business error as a exception text ID. So you can see there is something called business error is already available. Message ID, this is business error is here, you can see. So I'm using this one. If I don't pass any message, this is will taken by the message number 22 from the message class, this one, and let me see what message is coming. Standard is giving. Control F3, and let me refresh the data again from this particular employee set 7, which is not available currently in the system. So let me refresh the data. So you can see exception raised without specific error. I didn't give any error, and this particular business exception got raised. I have to give some error message. To give that message, you can give that message here, message, and you can write your own message, what error you want to display. In this case, I want to display the employee ID. Employee ID is not available in the system. Like that, I want to display this error, and you can see how they are displaying. They are passing the method name. In this case, I don't have any method name, so that's it. So I have to display this message with this raising exception. Let me do control F3. Let me refresh again. So you can see I got the error. Oh, still I'm getting this one. Let me do control F3. I implemented in get entity method. I'm getting particular entity 7. So let me refresh again. Employee ID is not available in the system. I got the error. This is the business error I got. So like that, you can display your customized message instead of displaying the standard message whenever you are getting the data. You can fail your size abar, you can give specific, you can raise exception, and what type of exception, business error, based on the business error or technical exception you can give, and you can use appropriate this exceptions class and methods. You can messages you can use from here. That is again one important thing. Text IDs we can see. Now what I will do, now we will create entity. So till now we have read the data from this particular table. I want to create another entry in this particular table using the OData service. How we can do? To add another entry in this G employee underscore RAM table, or we can say we want to add some data in SAP through OData service. And that way, what we have to do, we have to use HTTP method post, and we have to send the data, what data you want to upload in SAP. To do that thing, I have to use this post method, and before that I need some data which I want to send. That we will call usually the payload. Payload means what kind of data you want to put in your system. In this case, we have to send the G employee underscore RAM data, that particular one entry which we want to add in that G employee underscore RAM table, that we have to send. For that, what we have to do, what I will do, I will get some payload format. So for doing that, let me get some existing employee from this G employee underscore RAM table in the JSON format. You can take in the XML format as well, but JSON format always appropriate. We can modify easily. Question mark dollar format equal to JSON, and just you have to your service name is 002 underscore service, then your entity set name and which employee ID you have to pass as a key field, and you want to get in the JSON format. First I will get the data, and it will call the get entity method, and we will get that employee set to employee ID to data in the JSON format. What I will do, I will use this data as a payload, and I will modify accordingly my requirement to create the that particular one entry in the G employee underscore RAM table. So for doing that, I will do, you have to click on use as a request. In that way, you will be having the data which you want to upload in the system. In this case, you can see this data I want to upload, but exactly this entry I can't add in the G employee underscore RAM table because this entry already exists. So in this case, I have to change the employee ID to somewhere 6. 6 is not available. As I can see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is available, but 6 is not available. I can add this with ID key employee ID 6, and I can change some other data as well. To change the other data, let me change the name. I can change, instead of Rohit, I can write Ramya, or instead of city name also I can change, let me put Noida, or you can change the salary as well, and you can change the currency, whatever. You can change the date and time. I will talk about more date and time. It's not exactly the date what we are passing. We will talk about more date and time. And then department and company name, let it be company name I can change little bit, YouTube SAP Technomaniac. Okay, I want to upload, post this data. You can copy this data, Control C, and you can remove the metadata. I don't need to pass the metadata. I just want to pass, this is the payload which is starting from this particular, this is the payload, and this is the actual data which you are passing. That's a very important thing. So let me copy this data, so it will be helpful whenever I will pass the next time this particular data. So in this case, and one more important thing, I'm using the post method, and whenever you want to create entry in the system, you have to use the post method, and you have to use only the entity set name. No need to pass anything. You just have to pass your URI and your entity set name, service name / entity set name, and then you have to execute your service. In that way, you will be able to create create the data in the SAP. In this case, we are modifying one table. That might be we want to create the sales order in the system. We have to pass all sales order related data, and that we have to do. We are going to do that in future video. Just we are starting from basic. So let me execute this one. So we are getting one error. Employee set underscore create entity is not implemented. It's the same way how we were getting the get entity and get entity set method was not implemented. To create this entity, we have to redefine this method. As I told you in my previous video, let me close this one. So we are getting this particular error message from create entity. Where is the create entity? This is the create entity. Employee set, this is the TPC class, and from the DPC class create entity method, we are getting this error. And we should not modify DPC class. We have to redefine this particular DPC class in the DPC extension class. This particular method we have to redefine, and we have to write our own code. Instead of running this particular error message, we have to run our execution to update that particular table, based on whatever the data we are getting from the front end. So what we can do, we have to redefine. Obviously, you have to write EMP. You can do control space, and you can put enter and redefinition. Click on Control 1, add implementation for the create entity. So before going that, let me see what all are the importing and exporting parameter for this particular employee set underscore create underscore entity. You can do control 1, not control 1, you can do F2 and you will get all the detail. You will be going to get the entity name which you want to create in the system, or entity set name, and key tab that will be blank because we are not passing any key. As you can see, the URI. So always remember what kind of URI you have to pass. Here URI or URL, we are passing this one for the create entity. In this case, for create, we are passing this entity. For get entity set, employee get entity set method, we are just passing this only, but we were using that time get method, but this time we are using with post method. I can write plus get method, we are writing in this case plus post method we are writing, and it will call obviously it will call create employee create entity, employee set underscore create entity method it will call, instead of calling the employee set get entity set or get entity method. In this also we have to put get, but this time we have passed the key. In this case, that key table will be blank because we didn't pass here any key, but in this case we will be having some data in the this particular take request context IO data provider. In this particular this particular importing parameter, which is the reference parameter of this particular interface, this will help us to get actual data. If you open this one, we will be having something called one method read entry data. We have to use this method, and then we have to read the data for that particular data, whatever the data passed from the front end, and we have to read that data, and that data we have to update in our system. In this case, we have to update our z employee underscore ram table. So what we have to do? So for making simplification, I have to use, like, you can do again F2, and I can show you in the debug mode also. Before going to debug mode, we will be going to use this IO data provider, which will help us to get the data. So IO data provider, and I think this is static method or instance method is having, there is one instance method read entry data, shift enter you can do, it will get us the data. Control shift greater than, and if you see the what is the control Z, what is the importing and exporting parameter, ES data is type of any, but we know what kind of data we are going to get. In this case, we will be getting the data of this particular type. We are getting this particular line, ER entity type, so we can use the same. But in this case, what you have to do, ls underscore employees, you have to declare one work area, ls underscore employee, and this type will be control C. You have to declare this data type, data ls underscore this type, and you can use this type either from the DPC class if you go for F2. Before doing that one, I just want to show you this in the debug mode. Let me put breakpoint, break technomaniac, and let me activate this one, control F3. Let me put breakpoint there also, /o SE24 DPC extension class. Let me display it, and you can see this time not only the get entity and get entity set method, but create entity also got activated. We have redefined. Let me put the external breakpoint as well to see the importing and exporting parameter, and let me re-execute this particular data. So you can see that breakpoint got triggered. When you can see here what is the importing parameter and what is the exporting parameter. But if you see the I told you we will be getting the employee name. We don't need as of now employee name and source name. IT tab will be blank, and we will be needing basically IO data provider. In this we will be having the data. If you double click over there, as of now I can't see anything, but if you try to access those data, it will return us this using this particular method read entry data. It will return us the employee data, or this should be type of control C, control shift greater than. This should be type of Z employee RAM table, or you can use the type from the here as well. Z employee. Let me copy from here. G employee underscore RAM. EMP. Okay, and once we get this data, let me see what kind of data is coming. Let me activate Control F3. And let me do F8 here. So you can see there is some error still we are getting. In the context data service is known, there is some internal error occurred, but because we didn't send any data back, because as soon as we create the data in the system, we have to send back that data here. So in the front end, so they will get to know the data is successfully created in the system. Let me re-execute again. Again, breakpoint got triggered, but this time we have F7 LS employee. You can see LS employee data got filled. Whatever we are passing from the front end, it got filled successfully. But you can see the mandate is not filled. So we have to manually fill this particular mandate field as well as soon as we get the data. So what we can do, LS employee control C, because a client will be not passed from the front end. We have to add that client here, MAN DT, since this and that will be SI mandate, system mandate. And what we have to do, we have to insert this particular entry ls underscore in this G employee underscore RAM table. Control C, Control V from ls underscore RAM table. We can check the size abasi over here. If something goes wrong, we can raise the exception. We can give the customized message. It depends again what kind of coding you are doing and what is your requirement. So you can check the entries already existing or not. That also you can do. That is again ABAP coding, nothing related to OData. Just we want to update how we can insert the data in the same way you can create the sales order. You can call the BAPI also. We will discuss about the sales order where we will be needing the multiple entities also. So in that way, we can create the data in the system. Let me do Shift F1 and Control F3. And we go again our debug mode. This time I filled the Ramya. Okay, the name also incorrect. So let me do F8. I didn't fill. Let me see. Still we are getting the error, and I have to change this name also, Ramya. And one more thing we have to do, not only we have to insert the data, as soon as we have filled that particular entry, we have to pass that all the entries in the, you can see if you see F2, as I told you, we have to send back the data to the front end. We have to fill this exporting parameter, which is type of TS underscore employee. It's nothing, G underscore employee underscore RAM only. So what we have to do, we have to fill this one, Control C, or you can directly fill like this. If size abars is equal to 0, you can write, I'm not writing size abars equal to 0, then you can fill this particular data to this one and Shift F1 and Control F3. Now I will re-execute that same method. The main thing we have to remember, what query you are executing, what method you have to use, and which method will be called regarding that. That is very important thing. So once you remember this thing, nothing, the other thing is the ABAP coding. You have to see the importing, exporting parameter, and you have to write code accordingly. You have to check all the things. Let me re-execute this one. This data, let me re-upload. So as soon as I re-upload F5, F6, I got the data in ls underscore employee. I saw, and next step, I filled the mandate as well here. Mandate was blank. Let me insert this one. Size abasi also got 0, and I'm filling back this ER underscore entity, which is the same type. As of now blank. All the data got successfully, and let me do F8. This time it is successfully created. We are getting 201 message. number status code 201, and it is created, and we are getting back data which data got created. Let me get this data 6, employee ID 6, and see we are able to get or not 6. And let me use the get entity method instead of post, and let me execute this one. Let me see in the question mark $format equal to JSON, and let me execute. So data got created successfully. We got back the data. We can see the table also. If you refresh the table, there will be the 6th entry, Ramya, Noida, SAP Technomaniac, and all other detail you can see easily from here. What are the currency, everything got updated in this table. In this way, we can create new entry in the system. Suppose I want to update that particular entry which I have created, or I want to update some entry which is existing. I have entered wrongly here Noida. I want to enter city name as a Delhi. I want to modify this particular employee ID 6. How I can do? So you have to do the same way. Again, you have to remember one more thing. This is the same thing. You have to pass what URI you have to pass and what method you have to use. That is very important thing. So in this case, what we have to do, you have to use again payload, because you are again modifying the data. You have to send the data, what kind of data you want to modify. So in this case, what I will do, whatever the data I'm getting from employee ID 6, I will be using as a request. First, you have to get the data using the get entity method. Once you get those data, you have to use as a payload. Once you use as a payload, this time you have to pass very important thing. What happened? You have to pass along with your entity set name. You have to pass the ID, which ID you want to modify, and you have to use the put method. To update some data, to modify some data in the system, you have to use the put method, and you have to use the employee entity set name, and you have to pass the key fields of your entity set. So based on that, we can easily identify which entry actually you want to modify. So in this case, let me modify, instead of city Noida, I will put Delhi, and let me execute Delhi. Let me execute this particular data again. So in this case, I'm using the put, and you have to remember this is the URI. Control C to update the data. It was for create, and to update, we have to use this URI plus put method, and this will call which method? Let me execute and see which method it will call. Get update entity set method it will call, but we didn't implement it. Then we will get obviously error. It will say that employee set update entity is not entity method is not update method is not implemented. So we have to implement this method. So let me copy this one, Control C. So it will call this particular method, employee set update entity. For creation, it call the create entity. For updation, it will call update entity. So we have to write the code inside the update entity method to update the data. So you can go to the again Eclipse, and we have already, we can see that the create, delete, get entity, and we have update entity as well. So what we can do, we have to redefine this method. Currently that error message coming from here, so we have to redefine this particular method. So this code will not run, and the extension, instead of running code of the DPC class, it will run the DPC extension class code, because we have redefined this particular method. So EMP control space you can do, and this time instead of create you can do update entity, and redefinition, it's same code, and control 1 you can do, and add implementation. So this time, as soon as you start writing on the method, you have to see the importing exporting parameter. So what you have to do, F2, let me minimize this one, it is not required. You can do F2, And you can see again we are getting the IV entity tab, entity name, entity set name. This time key tab will be filled because we are passing the key value here. So the key tab will be filled, and we can read the entry which we want to modify, and we can modify the data accordingly. And if the data is not existing in the system, we can display the error as well. And in this case, we can same way we will read the IO data provider, and we have to send back the data in ER underscore entity. So let's do the things. So first what we have to do, obviously we have to get the data from the system. We have to read that IT underscore key tab. We have done that IT underscore key tab read in the using this one. You can write this particular statement, and you have to first select the data from the system exactly to check the data is available or not. So you have to write again the select single statement like we did in the get entity method. So you have to write like this, Control C, or in copy this also, this is also required. First we need to check the data is available or not using this particular entity. So what we are doing basically, let me do Shift F1, I will explain, give me 1 second. So we are reading the IT underscore key tab, how we did in the create entity, how we did in the get entity method. So we read the IT key tab with the name equal to employee ID, and we are getting the value of that particular employee ID which we are passing here. So this value we will get from this particular key tab. So whenever we will get the data, the IT key tab will be filled, and IT key tab data always come from here, whichever we are passing key fields after the entity set, and we can check what is the value of the employee ID, and that employee ID we can pass in employee ID. If it is not available, then we have to say this is again business error, is not available in the system, we can't modify. If it is available in the else, we can write the code. Let me remove the commented code which is not needed. If it is available, then what we have to do, obviously we have to read the modified data. So how you will read the modified data? Again we will use the existing code, this one, IO underscore data provider method. This is again, if you do F2, this is the same IO underscore data provider read method. We will use read entry data, shift enter you will do, and you have to get the data of your ls underscore employee data. Control C, you can copy everything, Control V, and you have to declare this ls underscore employee data also. Obviously you have to catch this exceptions also. I'm not catching as of now, it's again ABAP coding, I don't want to go in depth. And you have to declare the ls employee data also. This is again same type, C employee underscore ram, and shift F1. And once we got the data ls employee underscore we have to update the mandate field, because mandate field will be not coming from the front end, equal to psi mandt. And as soon as you update this one, we have to modify our z employee underscore ram table. Control C, Control V, from this particular work area, whatever the new data we got. And as soon as we got the successfully modified, we have to pass this old data. If size of us equal to 0, we have to write ls employee equal to ER entity. Exporting parameter we have to see F2. ER entity we have to pass back. Control C and Control V, that should be equal to ls underscore employee. So that is the indication we have successfully updated our data in the system. It's a simpler one. It's again ABAP coding. I didn't write in the proper way. So there should be size of RC checks also here. If we are not able to modify successfully, it is logged or not. We have to, those whole kind of things you have to take care yourselves. I just want to see which method will be triggered and where to write the code. That is very important thing for learning the OData. So shift F1, Control F3. Let me re-execute this method. Now I have implemented this employee set underscore update underscore entity method, and let me put breakpoint also, that will be better. Let me go back, and this time update entity also there. Let me put breakpoint over here. External breakpoint is fine. Let me execute put method, and data I have modified. This time I'm, instead of currently in the system, the city is Noida, I have modified to the Delhi. Let me execute this one. Breakpoint will trigger. I think so. Okay. I'm reading if your local variables IT key tab having one entry, which is with employee ID. If you have multiple key fields, you can see all the key fields here. You have to read one by one all the key fields, and you have to use accordingly. In this case, I just read the employee ID, and here again I'm telling the if the key field is not filled, it can give the error. This is table expression. You can table expression. If there is no value, it will give the dump. You have to either handle through try catch block, or you have to write the optional, those kind of things you can do. Okay, and the thing is that LV employee ID got filled here. Let me see what data came into LV employee ID. Obviously employee ID number 6, and based on this employee ID I read the data. I know the, oh, you should not use here ER entity. Obviously you have to use some other variable. I copy pasted, I did wrongly, but you have to use some other data here, and I know the data variable here. I know the data is available, and since data is available, so we are not getting any we are not raising any error. If it is not available, if we are passing something else, we should pass some error to front end. And I'm reading the data which I want to change using this IO data provider. This will give us the data. Again, you can see IO data provider is the object which we can use to read the data, whatever the front end data got sent. So you have to use this read entry data method here. Let me do F6, and as soon as you do read entry data, you will get the ls underscore employee data, where the mandate is not filled. You have to fill this mandate current client field, and you have to modify this particular data, and this data you have to pass to ER entity. And let me do F8. As soon as you do F8 and you see here, you can see the data got you got the status code is a 204, and it got updated successfully. You didn't get any response body in case of update. In create case, you will get the whatever the data created, but in the update case, you will not get the data back. So let me see the data got updated or not. You just have to refresh. Instead of Noida, it should come Delhi now. Let me click on refresh. Now it's a Delhi. So like that, we can update the data in the system. I have created the data in the system. I have read the data from the system. I have updated the data from the system. I want to delete that data now from the system. So how I can delete this particular entry which I have added now? I just want to delete the 6 number entry or 9 number entry, whatever the entry you want to delete. I want to delete particular entry from this table. So for deleting, what we have to do, there is two important things. You have to use HTTP method delete, and you have to pass URI like this employee set, and you have to pass which employee ID key field you have to pass, and which based on the key field it will get that particular entry, and we will delete that particular entry. We have to pass the key field, and based on the key field, that entry will be deleted from the system. So let me execute this delete, and let me try to execute which method it is calling in the back end. You can see here, it will be not visible. Let me go employee set delete entity. So again, one more important here, to delete that, what URI need to pass for that deletion. You have to pass delete. You have to pass this URI. You have to pass the entity set name along with the key ID plus HTTP method as a delete, and that will call this particular employee set underscore delete method. Employee set delete entity method it will call. We have to implement this method as well. Before implementing this employee set delete entity, so I told I didn't do the coding properly. So here, instead of getting all the data, you can get like that, select single X. You can use the new syntax. is X is data exist or something available or something, you can take LV flag or something, you can take say LV flag into @data, you can pass, and you can pass that LV flag, and you can check you have to pass what it is saying. Okay, it's not supported, it's older system, sorry guys. Control Z. It's not supported, and if you're working 7.5 and above, I forgot actually. You can check the, if you want to check the entries existing in the system or not, you can check using this. You can use the literal, but this is the system we are using for OData. It's 7.4 and below, so we can't check on. To modify a little bit, what you can do, instead of getting all the data, you can get the ID only. That way it will work faster. And ID into, I think data we can pass, no need to worry. LV ID, literal we can't use, I think we can pass the data. Still I'm getting the data error because system is running database 7.40, system is completely updated. Okay, this also we can't use, sorry guys. So there is no way. So you can declare another data type and you can just get the ID, and into LV underscore ID you can get, and like that also you can do like this, Control C, Control V, something like that. Control C, Control V. So if you work in different system, then you will get to know this, all the things, what thing is supported and what thing is not supported, everything you will get to know. So that's very important. Okay, like that also you can do. I just code now ID field, so there will be less data we are getting from database. It's not matter that much, not matter, but if you have bigger application, it's matter. And now we were talking about the delete method. So we have already, currently this particular method is executing. We have to redefine this employee state delete entity method in our extension class, like we did for the get entity set, get entity, create entity, and update entity. So same emp control space, this time delete, and we have to do redefinition and shift F1. Let me redefine this one, control 1, help is there, add implementation. And as soon as you do implementation, as I told you, you have to do click on F2 button to see importing exporting parameter. We will be having IT key tab. That's a very important thing, because we are passing for deletion the key tab. So we have to read this data and we have to delete that entry from the system, or for before deleting we have to check also it is available or not. So this is same code, almost same code we have to write this time. Control C, and we have to write end f, Control V, and we have to write and if after this, and if. So what we have to do, we have to read the key tab, because I want to delete this particular, we have to check this is available or not. If it is not available, we have to display the error, or you can directly delete. If size bars is not 0, then also you can do. So we have to write this like this, delete from this particular z employee underscore ram table, where id equal to LV EMP ID, which we are getting here, and size bars is equal to 0, then it is successfully deleted. If it is not deleted, you can raise the exception again. It depends again your F1. Let me activate this method, Control F3. I didn't get any error. We successfully re-implemented the delete entity method. Let me go to my test tool. Here we can directly test, or we can test in browser also. It's not matter. I showed you in browser also. So this time we have to send some entity, which line I want to delete. Again, I told I will delete this 9th line or 6th line, which we have added, employee ID equal to 6. So we have to pass that's employee set equal to 6, and we have to use the delete method, and let's execute. Now I have implemented this particular method. Previously I was getting the error. This employee set underscore delete entity method was not implemented. That is again the 500. It's a server side error. As I told you in my initial video, when our 200 series it's success, 300 divert, 500 server side, 400 client side. This is all you have to do. You have to know that what kind of status code will return. So that is the reason we covered theory part initial for tutorial. Okay, so let me execute again. This time I hope so. We want to debug also. Let me put breakpoint. Let me come back. This time delete entity method also got successfully here. Let me put breakpoint here, external breakpoint, and let me execute this time again. It will trigger that method, and the successfully breakpoint got triggered. As I told you, we will get in values in IT key tab, and there is all the key fields. In this case we have only one key field, so that is the reason employee ID, and we have read this key field using the IT key tab name, and we got that particular value in LV employee ID. And what is the value? Currently 0. Let me do F5. We got this. I want to delete the 6 number. Before deleting, I just want to check it is available or not. And if you don't check also, you delete statement also return the size of RC, that also you can validate. That will be better instead of hitting the multiple time the database. So LV, I want to delete the 6 number line, which is the 6 number line currently available with the, let me refresh the data. Currently the 6 Ramya Delhi. This line I want to delete. And so let me do F5 now. F5, and let me do F8. And if you see that it got successfully deleted, we got the successful message 204 in the green color. So always status code which is starting with 200, it always say the successful message. So it is 204. We will not get any content. And if you go and see your table, refresh the data, this particular entry should not be there now. It got deleted. So like that, delete will work. In this video, we have learned about the how to create the data, how to delete and how to modify the data in the SAP system using the OData service. Before going to next video, please like this video, share these videos with others as well so they can also learn. Thank you and happy learning.